Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Juvenile offenders are different. That's just what it is, man. And I don't say that to be mean. Not at all. Not at all. But I'm trying to make sure that people understand that when you're dealing with a juvenile, you're dealing with somebody that is not prepared for the world, even though they think they are. And whether they're inside or outside of prison, it takes a special understanding of the situation to be able to help them and deal with them, to help them overcome whatever situation that they're facing so they can move on with their lives when they're finished paying their debt to society. Now, this story that I'm about to tell you is about this juvenile offender that found himself in a situation that changed everything, not only for him, his victim's family, and himself, you know. And I want you to sit back and think about what I'm about to tell you in this story that I'm about to tell you, because it's one of those types of stories that it's going to make you think, especially if you have somebody in your life that is young, maybe getting into trouble, think that they know everything, and you're struggling with what to tell them. You're struggling with how to make them see that they're about to ruin their lives. And if you do have somebody like that, let them listen to this show, because this show is breaking it all down. It's breaking it all down, right? Now, the individual in this story, I'm going to call him Jody, okay? And not Jody because, you know what I'm saying, he stole somebody's girl. That's not this, that's not that, okay? I'm not using that name for this. We're just going to call the character Jody because, you know, I don't use the real names of the individuals, right? But this is a real individual. He's a juvenile offender, and his story fascinated me when I heard about it, partly from him and others. You feel what I'm saying? But here's the story, right? This young brother, he was having a lot of problems at home. Daddy issues. His mama was struggling. Daddy in and out of the house, mistreating the mom, all of this and that, right? And he ended up in the streets. Not homeless or anything like that, just out in the streets trying to emulate and mimic the behaviors that his daddy was putting down, right? So he's sneaking out of the house. Mom don't know about it. Dad don't care because he's not there. But he's out there in the streets, and he runs into this young dude that's the same age as him. Listen to me. The same age as him. But see, this guy, he's been in the streets 2 or 3 years at this point, and he seems to be older and more mature, and he happens to go to the same school that Jody goes to, but they've never really bumped heads in there, right? They didn't run in the same circles, but now Jody sees him in the streets. We're going to call him Craig, okay? Jody sees Craig in the streets, and now Craig sees somebody the same age, but mentally not on his level. So he sees him as somebody that he can get to do the things that he wants him to do, right? Now keep in mind, right? Let me tell y'all something. Whenever you see a juvenile in the streets, don't automatically think that the parent knows where they're at. Don't automatically think that the parent don't care about their child, because in most situations, trust me when I say, they're lying to their parents, they're deceiving their parents have no idea where they're at. You understand what I'm saying? They have no idea because they might work at night, whatever the situation may be. Don't automatically jump to conclusions when trying to figure out how is a 16 or 15-year-old out in the streets and the parents don't know about it, okay? But here's the story. Craig sees Jody out, and he knows Jody's out of place. You can see it. When you're out in the streets and you don't belong there, a person that's been in the streets can see it. Now, Craig had been out there for 3 years or so, 2 or 3 years already, sneaking out of the house and doing all types of things and making it seem like he's an adult. But the people that were already out in the streets, the grown folk, they had gotten used to him. Okay, he might, you know, sell a bag of weed here or crack rock here or there, whatever the case may be, but he ain't doing nothing major. He just hangs out. And they kind of took him under their wing just to try to keep him all the way out of trouble. See, people in the streets have this tendency to believe that if they take you under their wing and show you the way to do it, that they're doing you a favor, but they're leading you to hell real fast in a handbasket. You understand what I'm saying? But here's the thing. So Craig sees Jody. So he wants to do for Jody what's been done for him. He wants to take him under his wing and show him the way, even though he don't really know what's going on. So he tells him, look, you got to make sure when you're out here, you're watching everything. And whenever you see the police, don't strike out running. Just walk away calmly. Giving them little tidbits of information like that, you know? Now, Jody is liking this because it's something about being in the streets. It makes you feel like you're in an exciting time, you know, the lights, and it's the smell of the night that's different, because when you were a child, you normally will be in the house at that particular time, so you don't really know what's going on. It's that unknown element that's coming to light for you now. This is what happens at night. This is what everybody's out doing. You see people out drinking, smoking, laughing, music playing. Now, they're all on this boulevard, right? You know what I'm saying? Where everybody seems to know everybody. People are sitting in cars. Smoke is coming out of the car windows. You got people running up to cars, buying and selling drugs, and just having a good time. It seems like it's an okay environment. And then, all of a sudden, gunshots rang out. Tat, 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 tat. The gunshots rang out, and everybody scatters. And see, Jody, he looks like he wants to run one way, and then he looks like he wants to run the other way. He don't know what to do. So Craig grabbed him and said, "Get out." And they get out, and Craig is surveying the area. He's looking around, trying to see what's going on, and the coast is clear. So he tells Jody, "Get up." Now Jody's looking at Craig like, "Oh, he just saved my life. Dude is straight." But this is a common occurrence when you're in certain areas, right? Gunshots, people getting mad. Some people just fire guns up in the air just for the fun of it. There's no fun, but they do that, right? So now, Craig, he's excited about being in this element now. So when he goes home, it's like 2, 3 in the morning, and he sneaks back in the house. His mother is unaware that he had even been out. He gets in the house, lays down in the bed, and by this being a Friday, he doesn't have to worry about getting up and going to school the next day, right? So he lays down in the bed, gets up the next morning, takes a shower, and he hurries out of the house, you know what I'm saying, after he talks to his mom, and she feed him some breakfast with the eggs and the bacon. You know, the eggs got cheese in them, and then they got a little toast on the side with that strawberry jelly and all the orange juice and stuff like that, a couple of glasses of orange juice. Y'all know how I like that food, you know what I'm saying? So after he eats a healthy meal that a mother would want to feed to her juvenile child, he hurries on out, says he's going to the gym, shoot some hoops, doing all this and that, right? But he meets Craig at the gym, and then they leave the gym and they go to the spot where all the adults are hanging out, right? And he asked him on the way down there, he said, "Look, what'd your mama say about where you been last night?" So Jody tells him, "My mama didn't even know that I had been out." He said, "That's good." He said, "But if she ever catches you, you got to be a little aggressive with your mama, right? You got to make your mama scared of you." Now see, this is something that Jody never even thought about doing. He just wanted to have more fun. He wanted to be a little bit free to do some things. He's 16. He's trying to discover the world and through his eyes, right? But here's Craig telling him that if your mama catches you, you got to be aggressive with her. You got to make her understand that you the man, and you're going to do what you want to do, right? This is one 15-year-old telling another 15-year-old how to manipulate and disrespect his own mama, right? Now check this out. So a couple of weeks go by and everything is fine as far as Jody and Craig see it. They're able to do some things, and they're making a little money here and there. A couple of $100, nothing major. It's just being in the environment that's exciting to them, right? Especially to Jody. So after a few weeks and all this and hanging out and doing all these types of things, Jody's mom is cleaning up his room. She has, you know what I'm saying, the weekend off. She don't usually get many of them off. So she's cleaning up the house, you know, and she's going through the house, and she finds a gun in the room. She finds a gun in the room, and within the same shoebox, she finds a few $100, not much, you know what I'm saying? So she's upset. She's angry. So she sets it down on the kitchen table, and she waits for Jody to come home. And when Jody comes home, she tells him to come into the kitchen. He comes into the kitchen trying to act as though nothing had happened, right? He ain't been into nothing. So she said, "What is this?" And he tells her, "That's mine." He says, "That's mine." And she looks at him crazy. She said, "Well, what are you doing with a gun, and where did you get it?" The first thing she assumes that his daddy gave it to him, because his daddy is not doing right, right? And he looks at her, and he catches her, and understanding where she's going with it, right? He catches what she throws out there. And she says, so did your daddy give you this or what? And he's like, yeah, daddy gave this to me. Now he's saying this knowing this is a lie, but he knows that his mom is already upset with his dad, so he jumps on that lie. And now he's got her more angry at his dad than she needs to be because his dad hadn't given him anything. So she takes the gun and she gets rid of it. And when she calls his dad, she's going off on his dad, and his dad is acting like he don't know what's going on, but he really don't care. Listen to me, I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. One of the saddest things that people encounter in this world is when a parent is not concerned about the child. That hurts the child more than you could ever know. You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have a lot of time, but you do need some time. But if your child doesn't believe that you care about them and you're not showing them that you care about them, you are taking a situation that is personal between you and your child and your wife or your girlfriend, and you're making it a problem for the rest of the world, because you're going to turn this child out to the streets, and this child is going to become a monster because of you. Now, it'd be different if you kept that monster that you're creating in the house with you and only you, and it affected only you because you're the problem, and it still would be wrong. You understand? But it would be different if it was only going to affect you, but this child is going to affect the world in a negative way because of you. And that's not fair to the community, the people in the neighborhood, the potential victims down the road. It's not fair because you don't want to do the right thing, but you didn't have a problem when you were laying down making them. You understand? But anyway, let me get back to it. So now she's talking to her son and she's pouring all kinds of love out and telling him, I'm going to try to spend more time with you, all of the different things that he wants to hear. But he's angry and he tells her he don't want to hear none of that. And he pushes back. And he stands up at the kitchen table and he tells her, he said, look, I got to go. And she said, you're not going anywhere. Sit down. And he gets aggressive with his mom for the first time in his life. It's unfamiliar to him, right? So he don't really know how to act, and she's an adult. She's grown. She's been there, done that. So she sees that he's putting on. She don't know where this came. She tells him, she said, look, I don't know where you got that from and where you think you going to bully me, but you're not finna act like that toward me. I'm your mom, and you're going to respect me. And he tells her, I don't have to respect you. Now you got to keep in mind, see, Craig done put this nonsense in his head, and he's thinking he's doing what's going to get him what he wants. This is just one of those teenage temper tantrums, right? It's where, like when you were a child, you act a certain way to get what you want. And now you're becoming a young adult, and you believe that if you act this way, you can get what you want. And he believing this is true because this is what someone that his same age is telling him. He's assuming that this has worked for him. He's assuming that what Craig told him has worked for him. So he tries it on his mother and it doesn't work. And he's not prepared to back that up. He's not prepared to back that up at all. So he goes into his room and he shuts the door, slams the door, turns the music up, and he just lays there and he's mad. And then the phone rings. His mother answers the phone and it's Craig. And he's all nice and polite and proper and tells her, you know what I'm saying, my name is Craig, I'm a friend of Jody's, and I just wanted to call and check on him, see how he was doing, and talk to him and whatnot, if that was okay. And she said, here, okay, no problem. She said, she asked him a few questions, who he was and where he was from and who his mom was and all this and that. And she didn't know him, but he went to the same school as Jody, so she felt it was okay. So she took the phone in there and she gave it to him, and he's talking to Craig on the phone. She's impressed with Craig, because Craig presented himself to her in the proper manner, right? So she doesn't see anything wrong with allowing Craig to talk to Jody, even though Jody is playing stupid stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because she don't know that Craig is the one that actually gave him the gun and is helping him sell these little drugs in the neighborhood. She don't know that. She's blaming the daddy, right? So now the devil has been invited into the house, and he's talking to her son on the phone. And they're going back and forth and talking about this and that and all kinds of stuff. And when they get off the phone, Jody takes the phone back out and he gives it to his mom. And she starts to ask him a lot of questions about Craig. And he's pointed on how Craig helps him talks to him and all this and that, and he's the same age and they go to the same school. And Craig invited him to a party that they're having. And you know, Craig's mom is going to be there chaperoning and all this and that, right? But it's going to be in one of the local hotels. So she said, well, I need to call and talk to his mom and verify this thing to make sure that this is okay. And he gives her this number and she calls it, and a woman does answer the phone, but it's not Craig's mom. It's some girl that's no older than they are, and she sounds like an adult, and she tells him it's okay and that she's going to be there and all this and that, and she lets him go. So he goes to this party. Craig then come by and pick him up, and she doesn't go to the car to check to make sure it's his mother. But they go to this party, and they're having fun. It's some adults there, some kids, and all this and that. You know how that goes. And while they're having this party and everything, it's a lot of stuff going on in the back room, a lot of drug deals and all this and that. And this particular house has been on surveillance by the police, and the police are about to make their move because they see a lot of kids up in this house. And they're not going to stand by and watch juveniles buy drugs and do nothing about it. So after the party's been going for about an hour and they got enough information that they need, they raid the house. And they round up everybody. And Craig and Jody get round up with everybody else. And they're down at the police station. And when they go to the police station, the juveniles particularly, they're calling their parents to come and get them. Craig calls his mother, and she comes down there, and she's irate. And she goes in on him. And Jody's watching this. And Jody's expecting Craig to assert himself as in the same way that he's told Jody to assert himself with his mom. But he doesn't. His mom in front of the police smacks him upside the head and asks him, what's wrong with you? I've told you about this. What are you trying to do? Ruin your life? And he puts his head down. He don't even look towards Jody at all. Doesn't look towards him at all. Now Jody started thinking in his mind, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And then they leave. And Jody's mom gets down there. She gets down there, she goes off, she's crying and all this and that. And Jody doesn't know what to think. He's never been in a situation like this. So he's glad that his mom is there to pick him up and they go home. But while they're on their way home, he's talking this tough talk like he's a grown man. I can handle myself. This, that. And she said, if you can handle yourself, they wouldn't have had to call me to get you out of jail. But they did. And when they called her, they told her what happened, but she didn't let Jody know that she knew. So she said, what's going on? He said, it was just a party. It was the party that I told you that Craig invited me to. She said, but it was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of dust there. And she said, give me that number. I'm calling his mom. So Jody's not thinking. And he gives her the number, she calls. And when she calls, the girl that answered the phone earlier, that pretended to be his mom, she doesn't answer. She doesn't answer, but she asked for Craig's mom. And the lady that answered the phone happens to be the mother of the girl that was pretending to be Craig's mom. And she said, no, she doesn't live here. And she said, well, I talked to somebody earlier on this line that said that they were Craig's mom and it was okay for my son to go to this party. And the woman on the phone said it was a lie, it was probably my daughter. And she said, could I hear her voice? So she calls her daughter into the room. And when her daughter walked in the room, she said, yes, ma'am, what is it? And Craig's mom hears her voice and said that was her. And Jody's mom is getting upset now. And she's looking across at Jody in the passenger seat. And the girl's mom said, I'm sorry that this happened to you. I apologize. And it won't happen again, not for my daughter. So she's looking at Jody. She's feeling some kind of way now because she feels like this person that she raised is not the person that she thinks he is. He's lying, manipulating, and deceiving her in ways that are similar to his father, and she don't like it. And if you want to know how this continues to play out, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode because I'm going to let you know how this thing wraps up. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.